Good evening and welcome to the Transverse. I am Genevieve, and I happen to be the Chief Operations Officer for the Transverse. Tonight I am here with content creators from all across different social media platforms to discuss what we experience across those different forms of social media as the narrowing or the limiting of our exposure and our ability to talk about who we are as people within the transgender, non-binary, non-conforming, and intersex community. We want to welcome all of you here to be a part of this conversation, so please feel free to participate in chat. There will be a limited amount of time for questions, but put your questions out there. We'll try to take note of those and get those answered on the appropriate servers as we go along. But as we get into this evening, we want to let you know that this is a time for us as a community to come together to hopefully find ways to increase the ability of who we are to be normalized across the different forms of social media so that people can get to know us as real people and be able to just understand who we are a little bit better. So let me go ahead and let me open up the floor to our guests and allow them to introduce themselves. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go around and, if you will, share your name, your pronouns, and how you fit within a gender identification. Let's start with Cate.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cate. I go by Cateosaurus on all social media. My pronouns are she, they, and the best way that I think I sort of fit into gender identity is demi-girl, demi-woman, whatever version of that you prefer, because I just have never actually really quite felt like I fit. So I love that you phrased it that way. So that's me.
Thank you.
My name is Vera Wild, Wild spelled Wylde, all pretentious like. You can also find me under Council of Geeks on various social medias. My pronouns are she, they, and I am feminine leaning, gender fluid.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gender Meowster, or just Meowster if Gender Meowster is too long for you. I use they, them pronouns. I am a full-time content creator here on Twitch. I even have a talk show called Genderful, where I interview people about their gender identities and their special interests. I identify as a trans masculine, non-binary person. As of this recording, I'm about 1 month post-top surgery and 7 months on testosterone. Grateful to be here.
My name's Lexi. I identify as she, her. I'm a trans lesbian. I also run a show here on Twitch called Live with Lady Lexi. Hello to everybody who's in the audience. And that's really about it about me.
So I am Lindsey. I go by Unlabeled Truth on Instagram, and my pronouns are she, her, and I identify as an intersex and trans woman. Happy to be here with all of you.
Cate. We'll get her back. It's hotel. She is at GameCon. No, Gamehole Con up in Wisconsin. So her internet is a little dicey because she's at the hotel. But
Sorry, everybody. Remember what I said about the internet? Sorry.
Charlotte.
My name is Charlotte Danielle. I am a very proud trans woman, and I use the pronouns she, her. I'm here tonight. I'm not actually a streamer or have a show or anything at the moment, but I am the executive director of community for the Transverse. So welcome everybody to the Transverse. It's wonderful to see you here. I will be representing the community side as well as Aegis, which is our new security platform. Thank you.
And we want to thank everyone for being here in the chat and also in the other hosted streams that may be out there. I'm also broadcasting on TikTok live so people can see sort of behind the scenes what I'm doing, which is basically just moving back and forth and talking a little bit. But we're going to jump right into the subject for tonight. I ask our panelists to be here to discuss two questions. The first has to do with the active limiting of trans represented voices on social media. And by that, I ask them to think about if they have experienced shadow bans or limiting of those of exposure on the different algorithms, or if they've experienced in some way the narrowing of their ability to talk through standards of community that are very, very stringently enforced upon them, and they're really unrealistic. So I want to open that up. There's no particular pattern to how we go about this. So let's just toss this out there. How have you experienced on the platforms that you work with the ways that the platforms themselves have kept you from really being who you are and being able to share your message?
I'll go ahead and start because I have a feeling I might be the one reaching the furthest back in my own history for like the earliest very concrete example that I can cite. So I mentioned I have multiple things. So on YouTube, I have a channel for Vera Wild, which is actually older, but I also have Council of Geeks, which is my bigger channel. And about 4 years ago, I started experiencing initially on the Vera Wild channel the automatic demonetization and limiting of ads on every single video I uploaded as a default. So there wasn't even any time gap. I would upload a video and it would immediately be demonetized. So it wasn't even like it could have been caught by a bot. It was instantaneous as soon as it happened. I will never know for certain exactly why it was happening. At a guess, it's probably because some of the tags I was using at the time I identified it as a cross-dresser. So I was using cross-dresser and cross-dressing as tags, and I suspect that was the reason. But where it got really interesting to me was not long after on the Council of Geeks channel, which at the time I was not out on. I wouldn't come out for another 6 months or so on that channel. But every single video I started putting up there would also get demonetized. Now, again, I don't know if that's because they tied my IP address to both accounts or if I was picked up in facial recognition, but it was a very clear order of events. They started automatically demonetizing every single video that I put up, and they almost all got cleared on appeal. So I would appeal the demonetization and I would win, but it was still a default that it would be demonetized the instant it was live. And then it started happening on another channel that wasn't even talking queer topics, and I was not out on as being any kind of queer at that time on that channel either. And it started happening to both. And it was probably about 4 to 6 months, every single video straight like clockwork. And again, I can't confirm exactly why any of this happened. I suspect the main reason it stopped was because I was winning every single appeal. And they probably got sick of dealing with me. But I remember that was the first time that I was very concrete something targeted was happening, because it couldn't be that people were reporting my videos. There was literally not enough time. It
Right.
was automatic on the platform itself.
Okay. And that was YouTube, correct?
That was on YouTube. And I would be surprised if this specific thing, as I described it, happens anymore. Because as I said, this was about 4 years ago. Because I've been doing this nonsense for a long time. But that sort of started my baseline of what I keep an eye out for, because that was my first real concrete experience of being like, this is not accidental.
Right.
This is not happening by a fluke. Something by design is saying, no, you are not allowed to monetize this content.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
So I'm fairly new to this. Most of you guys know Jeannie, Emily, all you guys. You know I've only been doing this for a little while now. I started, I think, the end of August, give or take. And my main platform I started on was TikTok, and I grew fairly quick on TikTok. So I think within the first month or so, I grew up to almost 20,000 within a month. It was just insane. And I actually ended up losing my account, and I think it had a lot to do with not just trolls, but I think that every video I was starting to put up was starting to get reviewed, no matter what I was saying, no matter what message I was putting out there, no matter what. And even though, I would get banned on a live, which is how I ended up losing my account to begin with, every live I would end up getting banned by trolls, despite the fact that we were winning appeals. TikTok still penalized everybody for that. And so we just got the account back, I think, recently, within what, a week or so? It was like, yeah, about a week and a half or so. We just got Trans Girl 43 back on TikTok. And I'm still getting reviewed for anything I put up. I actually have not been on TikTok much lately. I did a live today, and I just skimmed long enough to do my makeup, and I was out. And that was it.
Today was not a good day to be on TikTok because they were having some major issues with streaming of videos. So I was in at least 3 or 4. In fact, I was in yours at Lexi at one point, and it just turned into just
Shit.
constant, you know, spinny little thingies. So
Yeah. Everybody kept telling me I was lagging today, and I didn't see it on my end, obviously, but they just kept telling me it was lagging, and it was just filled with trolls. It was a nightmare today.
Well, speaking to what Lexi just talked about, I got my start on TikTok as well, and I very famously lost my account for a weekend a few months ago, and it was the first time that I realized how sort of flawed and broken the moderation system was, because it was right after I started talking a lot more about LGBTQ and non-binary issues, and all of a sudden I started getting banned from lives. I started having my videos pulled for no reason whatsoever. And then that all sort of snowballed and resulted in me losing my account for a weekend. And it turned out TikTok didn't like that very much. And so they wrote a bunch of protest sea shanties, and here I am. But it was really frustrating. And then as I moved into both YouTube and Twitch, I've gotten a lot of hate raids recently. I've gotten a lot of just really nasty people, and so it's just been a very ongoing process for me in terms of my experiences and just knowing what is and is not safe to talk about. Whether or not it's allowed is very different than safe to talk about, and that is what I'm discovering.
yeah.
Is there any particular subject that you're discussing, specifically when the hate raids start, or is it just kind of random?
Well, it's really weird because the most recent one was I actually did a roundtable much like this for ADHD Awareness Month, because I'm a mental health content creator. I talk a lot about ADHD and neurodivergency. And we got hate rated by people who were just like, ADHD is fake. And normally I get, you're a disgusting pervert or whatever for being non-binary. And I was like, okay, I'm used to those trolls. But I've been getting a lot more mental illness is fake, you're lying, you're faking, ADHD is a sham, recently, which is interesting to me. I'm like, okay, they've switched, I guess. They've changed their mind about what they're mad about. So here we are.
Lindsey, Meowster?
Yeah, I'll just jump in on this topic, especially since TikTok came up. At one point, so I do have a TikTok channel and I don't use it. A couple of the videos I posted did very well and I gained a huge following really quickly, and decided, oh, I'm going to really leverage this platform. And in the very second video I posted, they had already restricted multiple intersex hashtags from the first one. And it's a topic that, also goes to Instagram, that there is, hashtag restrictions that pop up, especially with both the trans and intersex communities. And immediately I was like, I just don't have the energy to put into a platform that's going to do this. And I just sort of have left the channel alone. And unlike probably several on this panel, I typically don't do it, I don't monetize my channels because my day job is actually doing digital marketing. And so I just do it when I want to raise awareness for, the various communities that I'm a part of. But definitely been enough for even somebody like me to notice, when they just will start restricting certain search terms or hashtags, you'll see that engagement drop.
That kind of.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, I have over 80 posts on TikTok, And the first like 5 or 6 got over 500 impressions, and all the rest have been 100 or less. And they're all clips from my Twitch channel because that's my primary platform that I create on is on Twitch. And we've been consistent in posting, and we did a bunch of research on which hashtags should we be using on which platforms. And we've been doing all the things, and just it's not getting visibility at all. Like it never took off. I never hit 20,000 followers on anything. Like
Oh.
it just from the beginning has just been totally suppressed. I have not experienced a hate raid, but I will tell you why. It's because I have an incredible team of non-binary moderators who are moderating other channels that are getting hate rated, and they're proactively banning accounts on my channel before I get there. I also, for the last month, have been not really streaming because I've been away for my top surgery. And so I've missed a big chunk of it, which I'm really honestly grateful for, because leading into surgery, I was really tender. Like my identity felt tender, like just really vulnerable. And I was just not ready. And I can tell you there were multiple times leading up to when I left for surgery, when all this hate raid stuff was really getting rolling, that I would sit here with my lights on, everything ready to go, and it would take me half an hour to push the go live button because I was so anxious. Even though I knew my moderators were there, I was DMing them on Discord. Like they were there, I knew they were there, they're ready. I just couldn't like get the anxiety to calm down enough to go live.
Right.
And I don't think anyone should have to jump over those types of hurdles just to have their voice heard.
Yeah, and that's what, we hope to kind of address in this and kind of hopefully find some way forward on this. And I appreciate you Meowster, you kind of stepping into, some of those actions. I do want to get to some of the things that you all have tried and experienced in that. But let's see, I myself, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Clapper, I use Instagram, and then Twitch. And so I'm curious, as somebody who's in similar spaces with many of you all, where has been your worst experience of identity within a social media platform? Which one do you feel like is the worst for you to be yourself on?
TikTok, hands down, TikTok for me.
Okay.
Because I myself, I'm on Twitch, I'm on Clapper. Instagram is where I moved to after I went to TikTok and I lost my Trans Girl 43 account. But then a few of my viewers said that, I should go on Twitch where I can really say what I want to say. And so I went to Twitch, but I think TikTok hands down is the worst to try to be your identity. I talked to so many other trans creators on TikTok, and they are suffering. They don't know how to just kind of let it go and ignore them.
Right.
My thing is I laugh at them. I as a person know my self-worth, and I know that if they can't show me any respect, then I'm not even going to bother acknowledging they exist. And then, the content creators also ask me, well, if we ignore the comments, then how are we going to reply to our people? I said, well, it's real simple. Just start telling a story and then pump through your story. And then after you ignore them and not acknowledge them, they will go away. They dwindle down. It takes time, but just keep talking and pay no attention to them. Shut your comments off. You have to. They will go away. The biggest thing that they're looking to do out there is they want to rise out of us. That's exactly what they want. They want us to get mad. They want us to get upset. They want a reason to report us. And I think the second that we give them a reason to report us, they win. And so I won't give them one. I refuse to. So I think hands down, TikTok is the absolute worst. And I really think that app is run by the trolls, and they don't give a shit about their content creators, as far as I'm concerned. They would just rather have the monetization coming in from from all the other people, because I've been told that there's two sides to TikTok. That there's the LGBT side, and then there's a whole world of TikTok that apparently the LGBT just doesn't see. So I don't know if that's true or not, but hands down, TikTok is a bunch of children.
It is true, and like I'll second that the worst is TikTok, but in very weird and erratic ways. So comparing it to something like YouTube, which I've been on for over a decade at this point, TikTok has probably the most actively interfering and actively evolving algorithm that I've ever come across on a social media. So what that means as a practical standpoint is TikTok can go very well for you until suddenly it goes very, very bad. It can turn on a dime.
Yep.
And one of the things, because I'm on my second account on TikTok, my first one at 115,000 followers got nuked. No warning, and I lost the appeal on that because I joked about not having an OnlyFans page and was immediately nuked.
My God.
And did not win an appeal on that. But like I said, that while I'm not going to say that my queer identity had no part in that, officially it was for other reasons. But to what I was saying originally, some of the most stressful things that ever happened to me on my original account, and I am back on there, I'm back up to 15K. But one of the most reliably stressful things was if a video of mine went viral and blew up. Because if it stayed in a smaller view count in anywhere from like 500 to 10,000 views, I could count that it was being seen by people who were either already following me or who liked the kind of content that I did. The instant I started seeing view numbers shoot up past 20, 50, 100,000, that meant that TikTok, the algorithm has decided, oh, we're going to have this thing go viral. And then it pushes it out to everybody, including all the people who don't want to see me and who then come in and give me crap. And the algorithm shoves me in their face, and then they get mad at me basically for existing. But when the algorithm is doing what it does most of the time, which is kind of to section people off, it's like a thing you say on TikTok, oh, I'm on ADHD TikTok, I'm on queer TikTok, and you'll see people every now and then say something like, oh my God, help me, I'm stuck in straight TikTok, or something like that, because the algorithm's great until it's not, until it shoves you in the wrong place or shoves the wrong people at you, and then suddenly everything goes very, very badly. And again, I think it's because they have one of the more actively evolving algorithms that it can be great until suddenly it's not.
Anyone else?
I'll chime in. I mean, I feel the exact same way. Like TikTok, it's honestly really funny to me. Is like at this point, like it's not, but I have to just treat it with humor. Because for me, especially, I got really interested in neurodivergency as it relates to like sex and intimacy. And so I became a certified sex educator. And so a lot of my content is about like neurodivergency and sex and like how it affects your sex life and all of that different stuff. And I always do it within the community guidelines. I'm so careful, and I have to code my language, and I have to just, like censor myself constantly. But I'm like, it's really, really important to me that like people know about this sort of like component piece of neurodivergency that we don't talk about very often. And when I say that like TikTok banned me and then Twitch made me partner, like that's literally what happened. Was I have this one app like constantly punishing me, constantly suppressing me, telling, my videos are being reported and banned for nothing. And then Twitch was like, "Oh, yeah, you want to be a partner? That's cool. You can do that. That's fine." And so I was just like, the thing that frustrates me the most as a full-time content creator, is what I do for my job now, is that there's such a discrepancy. There's such a discrepancy between platforms in terms of what is and is not acceptable and what you can and cannot talk about, and especially in conversation with things like intimacy and gender and these like really important conversations. It's, well, why is over here not okay to be myself, but over here it's acceptable? And not only is it acceptable, but we're going to promote you and we're going to encourage you. And it's exhausting. It's I don't know about y'all, but it is exhausting for me to just navigate the fear and the frustration of like, is today the day that everything goes away again because somebody got mad and hired a bot raid to come in and report my account 1,000 times.
It is kind of interesting, especially to compare with something like YouTube or even Twitch, because the way other platforms will punish you, there's usually steps. So like when I brought up YouTube at the start, I brought up demonetization because that's what they will do to you first. I've actually only ever had videos blocked because of copyright bullshit, which is a whole other, oh, sorry, I don't know if we're allowed to swear.
Yeah.
Because of
Have you
because
met
of
me?
copyright nonsense, which is a whole other thing. But while YouTube did go through a period of time of demonetizing all my stuff, they didn't make my stuff unviewable, nor did they ever remove my ability to post it. They just said, you are not allowed to make money off this. It's interesting that TikTok, especially being as big as it is and now being a monetized platform, doesn't, I mean, they have steps. Supposedly, you get like these brief temporary bans, but it seems like they are so quick just to throw the switch and burn your entire thing to the ground. Whereas, I'm not comfortable saying that YouTube values its creators, but it at least understands that it needs to not be a dick to them. Whereas TikTok does not seem to care at all.
Right.
Well, it's funny you said that because when I was doing the TikTok lives, I was doing lives every night until I moved over to Instagram when I lost my account, and I would win every single appeal. I had done nothing wrong, no bad videos, no nothing. I would just constantly lose my account or get banned or whatever. 24 hours later, I'd be live again, no problem. And then I think it was after like 9 or 10 bans, I didn't even get the opportunity to appeal it. It said, you know what? We blocked your account. It's banned permanently. It's been a permanent ban. The only reason I got my account back was because I sent them like 2 or 3 emails every single day for a month until they finally reviewed my account and said, oh, well, we see that you weren't doing anything wrong. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what the hell did you ban me for to begin with? Because they still, even though the issue with TikTok is even though you get banned and they release you, they give you, they build it on a credit system. And so even though they allow you to go live and get your access again, they don't take your credits away. So even though you've won your appeal and you're innocent and they found nothing wrong, they're still ramming it right up and that's the end of it. And that's where TikTok is really bad. And Katie was saying, talking about sex and things like that. I would talk about things like that on TikTok, and I would immediately get freaking banned for sexual content or behavior. So I started code wording things, right? But then and that worked for a long time until I had mentioned, God, I remember what it was in the very last one before I lost my account permanently that month. But after that, I switched to TikTok and or Instagram, excuse me. And then I ended up going to a private room, and I could pretty much say whatever the hell I wanted until I had trolls joining me in my private rooms on Instagram by friending me like they were somebody that I knew, and then they were coming into there. Now I go over to Twitch and I say whatever the hell I want. I started my Twitch channel to fight for exactly what we are fighting for now. This is why I started my channel, because I am tired of the oppression. I'm tired of being discriminated against. I'm tired of people not being educated. I'm tired of it. And so now I'm trying to put the word out there, and people come into my room, and I would rather educate somebody than throw them away. And if I can do that, that's great. If I can't do that, that's fine too. But I know that I've turned a lot of heads as far as that's concerned. I'd have people scroll onto my TikTok and they'd be like, great, another trans freak or whatever, and they'd start listening, and then they'd listen and listen and listen and listen more, and they realize, well, geez, we're just people. We have problems too. And then all of a sudden they're turned, and then they realize that they were wrong this whole freaking time. And if everybody can start doing that, it'd be great. But I started this whole channel because I'm so sick and tired of discrimination. I'm gonna fight for it, and I'm gonna be that loudmouth. I'm that guy, like Emily says, that will walk up to a politician and look at him and say, "Dude, what is your effing problem with a trans person?" And I'll quote him. That's me, because I don't care. I won't be silenced as far as I'm concerned. I'm gonna say what's on my mind. I'm sick of it.
Sorry, folks. I was having moderator issues over on the TikTok live that I'm running on concurrently. My mods, I don't have a lot of mods over there, but I have friends in there who are trying their best to, and this is the interesting part. I'm not paying attention to this whatsoever. I am only engaged with you all. I checked in with them just to let them know what I was doing. And when I turned over here, all of a sudden, my friends who are not mods on TikTok were going, mod us, Jeannie. There's a lot going on here. And I'm not even paying attention to it. But I am still live. I'm still going. This is actually a test. So
just give it time before you get banned.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. So, no, Primal, I don't need you to go over there. I've got folks handling it. You never know. There may be fun for you here yet. But Meowster, Lindsey, do you all want to add anything else to this subject?
I have a question that I came up with. It's about Twitch that I put in our Discord chat. I don't know if anyone is watching our little backstage Discord chat, but I don't know if this is the right moment for that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm curious, for those who do stream on Twitch and are experiencing hate raids, if you're using the non-binary tag, the transgender tag, or both. I have a theory that the transgender tag is getting targeted more often than non-binary, because I only use non-binary because of all the other identities I have and the 5 identity limit. I just was like, well, I'm just going to use non-binary because that's more accurate than trans. And I mean, that combined with my fabulous mod team, we've been pretty okay. But I'm curious. I'm curious if that particular identity tag is part of what's getting targeted. I know that getting the trans tag on Twitch was the most upvoted feature request of all time on Twitch's like backend feature request managing system. So I'm interested to hear from people about that if they feel like sharing.
Well, the 5 tags that I use are transgender, non-binary, gay, lesbian, and LGBT. Those are the 5 that I use. I have not experienced a hate raid unlike anybody else here. But then again, I've only been on Twitch now just under 50 hours. I already made affiliate or whatever, but I'm working with a partnership. But I haven't experienced a hate raid yet. I do get the occasional troll, 2 or 3 people now and again, where they just kind of bang me, bang, bang. But my mods step right in. I got a fantastic moderator team. And they step right in and they're like, before I even get a chance to speak, sometimes they're just like gone, 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 gone. Before you know it, there's 15 messages deleted. But I use all 5 tags because I want everybody to be able to find me should they need to.
Yeah.
I don't use transgender. I have a lot of deep history just because the place of gender fluid and previously having identified as a crossdresser within the trans community is very contentious, and I've been targeted by trans creators specifically for saying that I'm trans in the past. So I don't use transgender as a tag. The 3 I use consistently, because the rest will just be tied to whatever game I'm playing, because I game on Twitch, is LGBTQIA+, gender fluid, and ADHD. I have yet to be hate rated, but also my Twitch channel is not particularly big. I mean, like even on YouTube, where like I'm over 50,000 followers, like for how long I've been doing it, which is about 9 years now, I'm on a slow burn growth on everything, which I think is part of the reason most of my issues have been generally with the systems and not so much with hate raids, because they tend to like to go for people who are either very small because they're easy targets, or very big because like, ooh, let's get on the biggest platform we can get. And I'm kind of neither at this point. So I don't get hate rated too much.
Okay.
That shames me to hear that you're having problems with other trans creators. We need to be sticking together, not putting each other down. That really shames me to hear that.
Very much.
That, I mean, that's I could talk to you about that, off mic at a later time. But that is a lengthy history of nonsense. Not with the community as a whole, to be absolutely clear, but certain people within the community. Oh God,
it just shouldn't happen. In my opinion, we should not be putting each other down at all. We need to stick together and come together. You know, I've noticed one thing that me and my wife have discussed a lot, and she's sitting here next to me off camera. But we've talked a lot about the fact that, you know, we have all these people that are fighting for all these different rights. Like, you know, us, we're fighting for trans rights. And you have gay people fighting for gay rights, and lesbians fighting for lesbian rights, and this one doing that one. I think we all need to drop all the labels and just fight together at this point. We all just need to come together as one giant group, whether you're black, white, green, purple. I don't care. But at this point, it's everybody going for this and everybody going for that, and this guy coming in here. And I think we just need to unite as one. And it really does disappoint me to hear that anybody's putting anybody down, whether I don't care if you're gay, lesbian, trans, non-binary, pansexual, asexual, whatever. It doesn't matter. We need to stick together.
And
You're speaking my language there.
But, you know, that's where we were founded out of. I'm not going to get into a plug for who we are and what we do, but yeah, that is something that we want to move toward. I do want to take a moment, and we've been on here for 30 minutes. I am very big on body check-ins. If anybody needs to get up and stretch, please do. Make sure you have something to hydrate with. But if you have any of those needs that you need to do that, feel free to do that at this point, because we have been in here for a little bit. And what I want to do is we've already, hit the subject a couple of times. Let's talk about the trolls. Let's talk about the hate raids, because those are a very passive form of limiting our voices on social media platforms. And someone may say, well, why is that a passive form? Because in many cases, the platforms themselves do nothing to protect the creators. They don't do anything to assist the creators in limiting the voice of trolls, of hate raids. And so the bandwidth of trying to communicate, trying to be in connection with our followers, with our audience, is narrowed, because we have to deal with trying to get these people out of the way. We've had this happen on our programming, such as the transgender show. It's happened a little bit on Behind Open Doors. We've encountered that some. Yes, I encountered it. Like I said, I'm dealing with it right now on TikTok, and I'm not even paying attention to these people who are coming in there. So what are you all experiencing in the different platforms? I know we're focusing on TikTok, but I would kind of like to bring in attention to the other platforms as well. It happens on YouTube. It happens on Instagram. It's happening on Clapper. So what are you experiencing in the wider world of social media from this?
Yeah, I'd love to jump in on this one, just talk about Instagram specifically. So, you know, in tying it to the last conversation, most of the hate that gets directed at you, for me, from my experience, is definitely related to anything that's tagged with the transgender label, or tag. When you hear about the intersex tag, a lot of times they're just confused, or they don't know what to think of it, or and it's just not a very as widespread as some of those other tags. And so, um, you know, when I was posting more frequently, probably in the last 6 months or so, I've it was crazy. There was periods of time where it was just an intense amount of spam messages, spam comments, people just coming at you, with the most vile things. People blatantly making, I won't say some of the things, just for purposes, but they're just vile things. And you report them, you block them, you do, your normal thing. But I don't know how many times, even on Instagram, I get a report. It's like, oh, we decided not to suspend this account. We decided not to remove this. Decided not to, take any action. And I'm like, they just told me to, what? It's like, how is that not a threat against somebody? Um, I just I think that tag is very unprotected on a lot of platforms, and I think Instagram is no exception.
Thank you.
I think you just highlighted, I think, one of the big frustrations I tend to have with Instagram, especially because Instagram, at least in my experience, is one of the few platforms that actually gets back to you when you report on someone. TikTok does too sometimes, but by and large, I almost never report anybody, no matter what they comment. I just block them, because it's one of the most frustrating things to report a comment that is atrocious or threatening or just absolutely deplorable and disgusting, and like, who could possibly think this is okay? Report it and then hear back 2 days later, we found no violation. That is honestly way more disheartening than getting the comment in the first place.
Right.
And it is way more dispiriting for me to have something like Instagram sign off and say, no, this is fine. So I just don't even deal with the report system at all. I just block people and leave it at that.
Most of, aside from TikTok, the very occasional hate that I do get, but back to Instagram, I'm going to agree with all of you guys. I get the occasional hate comment on Instagram, but to be honest with you guys, most of my hate comes from message requests. I don't know if you're getting that too, but I'll get a message request and some douchebag will tear me up about something, and they'll say, you should die, you should hang, even as bad as your mother should have, and it's like, wow, what is wrong with you people? Like, how do you think this is okay? Like, this isn't going to get you reported. And, I have reported on TikTok, that platform, and it doesn't do you any good because half the time it comes back as, oh, we didn't find any violation. Well, great. The guy told me to go hang myself. I'm glad to think that's okay. And then I, honest to God, don't know how to check them on Instagram, but I've certainly made a few reports of people that have sent death threats my way. And I welcome them. By all means, bring them. But, I think, like everybody else is saying, Instagram seems to be a huge problem with that. But I'm getting them more through message requests than I am actually through any comment himself. But I've also privatized my Instagram account where you have to follow me in order to leave a comment. And so that's why I'm getting them through message requests versus actual comments. On TikTok, it's completely different. I have it wide open for anybody, but I'm not experiencing a lot of trolling on TikTok. Maybe one comment a day if I'm lucky. But the clapper, I've actually had somebody threaten to come shoot me with his AR-15 once on. I've only got 2 or 3 videos on the clapper. But I know that his account's been removed as far as I knew because I did report that one. And as far as the clapper goes, I do believe that, and I tell me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that the clapper actually takes care of their content creators, do they not? Because if they have a problem with the trolls, are they not more apt to ban the troll as opposed to the creator causing whatever issue? I mean, Jeannie, you probably know more than that than I do because you have a lot more videos on Clapper than I do. I've only had 1 or 2 trolls, and both of them seem to have both their comments removed. But other than that, I mean, I'm experiencing the same problem everybody else is. But the message requests are absolutely brutal. I mean, they are rough. I read some of those and I want to cry sometimes, but I can't. I'm better than that. I can't do it.
I've been on Insta and Facebook mainly myself. Those are the platforms that for me, just because it's easy. Like I say, I'm not a content streamer like many of you. And yet in the year that just over a year that I've been on Instagram myself, you mentioned, Lexi, those messages that you get. I am inundated with those daily. I've reported probably 20 to 30 of them in, and any response that I get is exactly that. Nah, there's no violation here. So, like Instagram, Facebook, are you telling me that them telling me I should be dead is actually what you want? You know what I mean? Like, how is there no violation there when I'm told that? It's just not appropriate at all.
Yeah.
I think it's got to do with the platforms are simply transphobic, period.
Yeah.
Because they're not protecting us. That's for damn sure.
No.
Well, I'm not necessarily going to push back on that. The only reason I would put a caveat on that is because I personally do make a distinction between transphobia by design and transphobia by indifference. Because I have enough friends who are not any kind of genderqueer or LGBTQIA+, who experience similar things for other reasons. Like I am very good friends with a number of content creators who are bigger bodied, and they deal with similar like failure to deal with any of the virulent and vicious hate comments that they get reported, and then it comes back no violation. So while I'm not going to say that the end result is effectively transphobia by default, the only reason I hesitate using the word is I personally try and reserve the word for when I feel they're actively trying to do it, as opposed to just sitting back and doing nothing, which is still a problem. But I feel there's a slight distinction worth making there.
Yeah,
I'll agree with that. Sorry.
And I'd love to echo those comments that I think this is kind of almost part of a larger conversation that's going on just, about, trans rights and things like that. Is there's a distinction that people outside the community don't necessarily, whether it's lack of understanding or they just haven't been educated or whatever, is there's a huge distinction in, making fun of somebody's behavior and their mannerisms and making fun of who somebody is, or even going as far as to erasing that person's identity from sort of the conversation, right? Like there's a line in the sand that I think people outside the community have a hard time understanding. Oh, it's, people are joking. Why are you getting so offended by the fact that somebody's making a joke? Everybody gets joked about. But it's different when it's about who you are versus just maybe your behaviors or like your habits or things like that, because it just simply breeds into that narrative of you don't belong here, in the mainstream society. So that's kind of where that feeds into that conversation.
And strangely enough, just what you were talking about right there, I had an incident of that today where someone wanted to engage me regarding everybody's favorite incident in the last couple of weeks of, global transphobia with Netflix. And I, I was engaged with this person basically to, have this conversation of, look, I don't like the material. That's it. My issue is Netflix, but they were trying to get across to me that it was just a joke and that trans people are the only ones who are making an issue of this. So what I did was I decided to make it an intersectionality issue. And I went out and I tagged T. Nathan Lokius. I tagged Millie Not So Vanilli, and I tagged Modern Warrior on TikTok, representing the Black, the Jewish, and the indigenous communities. And it's like, look, if you think that trans people are the only ones who are tired about these jokes, then you've not talked to enough people. And their argument was, yeah, I did. There's only one or two here or there. That tone deafness of not hearing. This is a bigger issue. And I don't know about you all, but for me, for one of our partners in the company, we work very intentionally on intersectionality. We are not just pushing for trans rights. We are pushing for transgender rights, intersex rights. We are pushing for non-binary, non-conforming, but then we're going beyond that. We are standing with our BIPOC siblings. We are standing with those who are persecuted because of any kind of difference, those who are disabled, those who, are from a different region and are having to flee. We want to ensure that everyone gets the same chance. And I think the only reason why we created this summit for this platform of people was to narrow in on the language that is used against us. But when we stop and we take a step back, this is language that is used across the board with BIPOC, with Jewish people, with Palestinian people. We are seeing this being spread all across the different peoples who are not cisgender, white, heterosexual, and prosperous. So, that's kind of one of the things that eventually, yeah, Lexi, you said it, we've got to band together. We have to stop thinking about this as just a trans issue or just a sexuality issue. So, sorry about that. Didn't mean to soapbox. I'm supposed to be moderating and letting you all talk, so.
Well,
It
you
was
had
a
actually
really
We're
good
not gonna
soapbox.
So
you had
like,
actually
with-
brought it up. Sorry, you had actually brought it up, and I said that just goes back to what I was saying. We all just need to stop worrying about my rights, intersex rights, non-binary, whatever. We just all need to come together. Whether you're black, brown, green, India, it doesn't matter to me at this point. We all just need to stand together against the country and say, you know what? Enough's enough already. Because we're people, we deserve respect, and we demand it because it's time to educate the world. It's 2021. I mean, it's gonna be 2022 in what, 2.5 months. So at this rate, it's time for the rest of the world to catch up because I can't believe that there's any people that are just discriminating against anybody. I don't care where you're from or what you do or whatever your issue is. We're so far into the future, we're still discriminating. And I made it a point on one of my shows the other day to say that Germany had just elected 2 transgender people onto their Congress, House chair, whatever it is over the Parliament. They had done 2 transgender people, right? 200 years ago, we were killing indigenous people here, and we still can't manage to catch up. 80 years ago, Germany was killing Jews and everything else, and they're already ahead of the game. What is the problem here in the country? Like, what's going on? I don't get it.
I want to kind of come back because when you brought up the Netflix thing, and especially when people use defenses that either are literally them saying it's a joke and he's making fun of everybody, or saying anything that's any kind of equivalent of that, that's like, look, everyone's being treated the same. One of the things that's really frustrating to me about that, because you hear that either honestly sometimes from platforms themselves or from people who are defending platforms, because there's a fundamental problem with that idea. It makes sense on paper. We just treat everybody the same way. But that only works if one key phrase is in play, and that phrase is all things being equal. The problem is all things are not equal. And if you act like they are, if you treat everybody the same, regardless of who they are in their position and how their identity is already a cause for people to pile on them and can become a burden in some really infuriating ways that shouldn't happen. When you treat them the same as somebody who doesn't have any of those pressures, all you do is lock in the disparity. It locks in the status quo. So a really good example of this is the whole thing that's been going on with the hate raids on Twitch, which, as I said, I have not personally been hate raided, but I have been following what's been going on. So when the trans tags were introduced, that was something that was asked for, as was brought up already. But the thing was, it was pointed out to Twitch by a ton of queer creators that the way your raid system currently works, pairing it with this, has the potential for people to unleash just torrents of hate on us. Please put guardrails in place to ensure that doesn't happen. And they didn't. They said, well, we're just going to treat you the same as we treat everybody else. But that just resulted in a torrent of hate coming at us because we needed guardrails, but they treated us like the people who don't need it and said, well, we're treating everybody the same. Like, but we're not in the same position. We have different hurdles in the society that has huge swaths of very influential and very loud people who do not accept us, which if you're treating us the same as people who don't have to deal with that, that doesn't help.
All right. Meowster, you want to jump in here?
Yay. I was just checking that I was still unmuted. So I'm thinking back to all of the Black Lives Matter protests that were happening at the start and through the first portion of the pandemic. And that's not the first time that that's happened, right? Like Black Lives Matter as a movement has been going on for many years, and it's just the latest iteration of civil rights in the United States. So for me, I'm disabled. I live in my home. I'm like a potato. I just live here. Me and the cat. My wife is the one who like leaves and does the things. And so when all of the in-person protests were happening during COVID, I had several moments. I had months to think about what does it look like to have intersectionality with the resistance? What does it look like to include people who are poor, people who are disabled in the resistance? Because not everyone is a frontline fighter. And for months, perhaps years, I have had guilt and shame about not being able-bodied enough to be a frontline fighter. And I had to take time to realize there are, just like in tabletop games where you build your party and everyone has different skills, like in real life, when you're building the resistance, everyone has different skills. Like the Transverse team, you have your person producing the show, you have your person who's the talk show host, you have your mod champion, like, and you switch those roles all the time. And so, I'm curious. I keep hearing people say we have to stand together. I don't care what race you are or what gender you are or what sexuality you are. But I think it's important, like, we need to know those pieces because each of those identities have different perspectives. So, like, for me as a non-binary person, I can say, like, I want to see pronouns on everyone's channels, even if you're trans. And so then you think, oh, well, I went from A to B, like I went from he, him to she, her. Like, there's such a huge cluster of gender wonderful beings that are in the gray. And having pronouns listed displays that, because someone showing up here might say, oh, this is a trans stream. There's Meowster, probably he, him, because it's trans. So therefore Meowster is he, him, but that's not true. I'm they, them. And so even within our communities, like, so there's the outward facing taking on the trolls. There's the fisticuffs with the big companies, but there's also smaller actions on our own streams. Another example is having closed captions, because a huge pile of trans and gender wonderful people are also neurodivergent. Like, I don't know if I've met a trans person who's not some flavor of autistic or ADHD. Like, let me know if you find them. I would love to meet them because that's fascinating. But like, and usually people hear me say that and then they're like, well, I'm not. And then they hang out a while and then they're like, oh, wait, actually I am. And they're little like neurodivergent egg hatches. And I'm like, welcome to the party. Glad you're here. And so like, I know for me, having captions to read is really useful for my attention because I space out, my brain wanders off. And so, so intersectionality starts on our channels, right? It starts with having accessible streams with captions, with flashing light warnings, right? Like it needs to include everyone with awareness of, the different goings-ons and not just the trans communities. So there's also a pronoun plugin. I don't know if anyone's mentioned that, but there's not only is there a plugin for pronouns on Twitch, but there is also a lot of people that have been pushing since 2019 to get pronouns as a standard on the whole Twitch platform. And so there's a lot of activism that's like within specific content creation in addition to sort of the shadow ban stuff we've been talking about so far. And I just wanted to take a minute to share about those things too.
Thank you, Meowster. I appreciate that greatly.
I actually want to pipe in on that. I didn't know that plugin actually existed. So if somebody knows how to put that in, I'd actually be really happy to install that onto my stream. And then because that's a great idea. It didn't even dawn on me. But the other thing too is the closed captioning. That's another fantastic idea. Because you're right. Sometimes people can't hear me, or their phone or volume or whatever is all the way up, and no matter how loud I put my microphone, it doesn't matter that they don't hear me. And so that's actually a great thing too. As far as the autistic or ADHD thing goes, I don't know if I fit in either one of those categories, but I do know that I'm always trying to be considerate of others. So if there's a way for me to do that, by all means, let me know. I'd be happy to pitch in and do my part.
We want to take a second here. Cate's going to have to leave because she is doing a thing here in just a little while. But Cate, want to say thank you so much for taking your time, especially in the middle of your convention schedule. So thank you so much.
My goodness, thank you all so much for being here. It was such an honor. And I just want to say thank you all so much for having these conversations. And for everybody who's watching, thanking you for being here, because just being here and being present and letting Twitch know that these conversations are of import it's such a valuable thing for the community. So yeah, thank you all so much. It was so nice. I'm so sorry I have to run. This is what I get for doing 2 conventions in the same day. But it's been wonderful, and I will talk to you all later.
Pleasure meeting you, Katie.
Thank you, Cate.
Bye, everybody.
So here's what we're going to do. Oh, Emily, there you are.
Hey, there you are.
Okay, folks, give Emily just a second. She was not expecting to jump into the video. We didn't know about Cate's schedule, so we are taking a second for Emily to get her voice back in, and she can be a part of the conversation. So give us just a second. But also, let's just kind of take a second to breathe, stretch a little bit. We've been sitting here for an hour. If you need to get up and walk around, please feel free. I want to put over on to the chat, if you have any questions that you would like to bring up to the panelists, please do so. I want to show you the format that helps us out here would be to tag the transverse and then in capitals question and then ask your question. That way we can see what it is, we can take note of it, and we will be able to capture all of that in the conversation. So for anyone who has questions, please bring those up in there. I'm going to take a second to say thank you over to my mods on TikTok for keeping everything over there at bay. It looks like things may be slowed down over there. So maybe the trolls got tired of being ignored, and so.
I'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Okay, Vera, understand.
Can I just pipe in, Emily? You look absolutely stunning tonight. I just want to let you know that, by the way. You are. I love your pearl necklace. It's gorgeous.
If you're still not mic'd, you're still not coming through, hun. So we'll get her figured out eventually. Vera had to step away. She'll be right back. But again, questions, drop those into the comments. We'll be glad to do that. As we kind of move along here, one of the things that I would love to be able to do is eventually talk about some action steps. But here's my question. What have you discovered that has worked for you in the process of dealing with these individuals, trolls, hate raids, whatever else, in that moment? So if you want to take that and run with it. So
I think it depends on the platform. So if I'm on TikTok, I do a complete ignore. I pay no attention to anybody that's in there. As far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the people on TikTok, they're children. They just don't act like adults, nor do any of them have anything intelligent to say, nonetheless. But there is the occasional comment on TikTok that will grapple my attention a little bit. And I may or may not engage depending on what that comment is, but usually it's something a little more on the more original side. And so I'll actually take the time to answer it. I love religious debates. So when somebody pipes up about religion, I'm more than happy to educate and advocate. And so I usually put them into place pretty quickly because I usually just say the one thing the Bible teaches for everybody, and that's to love everyone, hate the sin, but love the sinner. And that's really what it comes down to with those people. And then as far as Instagram goes, once in a great while I get them, and like I was telling you guys earlier on Twitch, my moderators, they have a no take shit policy. And they will just ban you the second you come in and you start and you're gone. I got two little pit bulls I like to consider as my moderators. They're the quickest and they're the worst. By worst I mean like they're right there to protect me. And those are Shy and Barefoot, and both of them are just hands down pit bulls for me. They take no crap from anybody, and that's really the only way that I deal with them at this point when it comes to Twitch, because you guys know that I'm trying to grow my Twitch channel as large as I can get it, and it's going to grow, and eventually we will ban all the trolls. I would hope. I mean, I would hope in 5 or 10 years, especially with the acquisition of Aegis, that we can better be more proactive, getting to know all these people that we need to ban now, so that we don't have these problems.
Great plug. Thank you for that, Lexi.
No, you're very welcome.
Vera, I asked the question of what techniques have you experienced to deal with trolls or hate raids right in the moment that have been helpful for you to kind of continue to do your thing?
Good mods and not engaging. I mean, what they want is to throw you off your game as much as possible. So the best thing you can do is to be as unaffected by it as you can manage. And if you have a good mod team, that's always going to help immensely for them to be able to jump in and help clean stuff up. But like the most acknowledgement I will usually give of a troll is thanking the mods for getting rid of them, or sometimes possibly saying, oh, sorry that the chat is a mess, we'll get that sorted in a minute, and then figuring out something to ramble about while the mods get it sorted. Just what I mean, it's a cliche thing to say, oh, they just want attention, but they want attention. Even if you don't engage with them directly, just acknowledging their existence is giving them attention. Mm-hmm. And It's funny because I heard you say, like, on TikTok, they're children. That's actually literal, because
Yeah.
the times that I've gone viral and I've gotten the most nonsense going on has been when TikTok has shoved my stuff in front of minors, which I really wish it wouldn't do. Because I say this as a parent, kids are the worst.
Ugh. Kids say the meanest thing, and that goes back to what my wife says. What everybody usually says, most of my people. I don't know if you guys hear this all the time, but hate is taught. You're not born to hate anybody. You're taught to hate people. You're taught to be a racist. You're taught to be transphobic or homophobic or whatever phobic you can come up with. It's a taught thing from the parents, and the education unfortunately starts with the children because they need to educate the parents. Now I don't know what is the age restriction on TikTok. Is it 12, 13, 14 years old?
You are supposed to be 13. Obviously, people can lie about that, but even with that, like, that's still a range of 13 to 17-year-olds that I don't want seeing my stuff. So that sort of comes back to what I talked about earlier when TikTok decides, oh, we're gonna take this thing and make it viral and shove it in front of everybody. I'm like, you just showed my face to a whole lot of people who I don't want to see my face.
I got trolled by a family account once. There was this kid, I don't know if he was 10, 11, 12, whatever it was, but he was on like the family account. It said whatever family it was account, you know what I mean? And this kid's giving me like this really hard time, and I'm like, you're like 10 years old using mom's and your whole family's account. You really think you've got the nerve to troll on me? Like, seriously, dude? Like, go to bed. It's past your bedtime. Shouldn't you be in school or something? I mean, what is that all about? Like, seriously. I can't believe it's as young as 13. It certainly shouldn't be, because I know at 13 years old, I would have never let my kids on TikTok. Maybe 16, maybe.
Lindsey, you've been using Instagram, and most of your posts have always been static, meaning that you post a picture and then you deal with the comments that come after that. How have you been able to deal with that in that format?
Yeah. So, when the hateful messages and comments come in, I usually just don't engage. I delete. I try to flag words where it's an auto delete thing too, where if like somebody, leaves a comment that has a certain word or phrase, it just gets rid of it. One thing I'll just add, and this is kind of a backwards action step, but one thing that helped me was like educating myself about who these people are. There's a lot of really great studies about internet trolls, why they behave the way they do, the psychological reasons that they're doing this kind of behavior. And I think if you understand how broken the individual is engaging in the behavior, it almost makes it not as impactful when you hear whatever they're spewing, right? Like if you put it in context, like consider the source it's coming from, it sort of takes a little bit of that sting. And obviously, it's not our job to sort of like try to help them because they're attacking us. But at the same time, just being in a position yourself where this is typically the kind of person or the kind of statistics involving trolls and this kind of behavior, whether it's cyberbullying or whatnot, does help you, process that as an individual and sort of takes the blow away from it.
Right.
Do you have a resource on that, just out of curiosity? I'd love to read that if you do.
I do, yes. I will find some. I will find some for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsey. I would love to read that too, Lindsey. So if you could even share that
we
in
all
our,
want.
in our chat, that would be great. Meowster, you just shared something in the intergroup chat there, which is a bot for managing the hate raids on Twitch. Now, a few weeks ago, I guess it was a few weeks ago, there was a big talk about the hate raids and that the community was really calling out Twitch to step up. Were you a part of that?
Yeah, I was. So I think it was September 1st, but my months are getting fuzzy because of
Mine too.
surgery. But September 1st was a day off Twitch, and Wreck-It Raven, who is a BIPOC content creator, organized it, was the initiator, and a bunch of us, if we went live at all that you would see is this infographic about what's going on with the hate raids on Twitch, why it's terrible, some concrete action steps that could be taken to overcome some of these things that like are feature requests that Twitch could actually do. Because a lot of what Twitch has been saying back is like, oh, it's too hard. Oh, we can't tell you what we're working on developing. Like, you're asking for things that are unreasonable or whatever. And it's like, no, like there's like having people sign up with an email and have it be required that accounts have to have email verification is not too hard, because before the day off Twitch, like you could have an infinite number of accounts associated with one email address. So you get 100, 200 bot accounts signed up with one email, and you know, you're off to the races. So so there has been a thing, and actually Twitch has started implementing some more safety tools. I noticed just this week when I went live, there was something that popped up in my chat that let me know first time viewer, like just so you know, it's the first time viewer. There's actually there was a different bot that we were using to manage those activities. I think there's a lot of third party sort of bot makers, content creators who are making tools before Twitch can get to them, which just shows like it's totally possible. Like, you know, frankly, I think the trans programmers are going to save the world. I'm married to one.
Are you willing to
yeah,
share? Not,
everyone
not,
wants a
not
copy
your
of Trans
spouse,
Capybara. She is actually the best being that exists in the world, and we are so lucky she's alive. I love her so much.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, but there is a bot that I'm using now. I don't know if SariBot is made by a trans person or not, but SariBot does a couple of things, because another struggle that content creators are running into right now is you actually can get banned off Twitch for chat that happens on your channel when you're not even on stream. Like, you as the content creator are on the hook for anything that happens in your chat. You're supposed to be moderating your own chat, and so people are showing up saying a bunch of terrible things in your chat when you're not even online. You could be asleep in your bed, and then you wake up and you lost your account because they did all this terrible stuff and then like bulk reported it, and then you have to do your best to try and get it back, and who knows if that'll work or not. And so one of the many features of SariBot, and it's Sari SERY_bot, is it will put your channel into emote only mode, as well as some other things, while you're offline automatically. So if you have ADHD like me and you forget all the things the second that the stream is over, that is an automated way to protect yourself from the shenaniganery. And SariBot is free, and there's a Ko-Fi link on SariBot's Twitch page that you can use to support the creator.
Can you put that link in the group chat here?
Yeah, it's
I
there.
did.
Okay,
I did.
good.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at the Discord chat. But that's very interesting. You said that. I actually had no idea that you could even chat when I'm offline. That is not something that ever even dawned on me. I wasn't even aware that's possible on my channel.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will be definitely fixing that.
I suppose one other resource that is easy to duplicate in any streamer's Discord channel is we actually have a dedicated opt-in channel in my Discord server called Streamers Only, where streamers get to talk to each other about this stuff.
Oh,
So
cool.
I know for me, like getting on social media and seeing news and all of that, like I get overwhelmed really easily. I don't know what is going on the last 2 years besides obviously pandemic, but it's been really hard for me to intake the news. I've asked my spouse to tell me if there's like really important things I ought to know, because the rest of the time I can't. But yeah, so we have our streamers only channel, and so we'll post things like this. And we hit over 50 pins. We hit 50, which is the maximum number of pins in a Discord channel, which I didn't even know there was a limit on that. And so I'm in the process right now of compiling all of those streamer tips from the last over a year of me making content and people discovering useful things and sort of sharing them into a big streamer guide that will be on my Ko-Fi shop with the rest of my streamer guides.
Very cool.
It's great. I love that everyone's supporting each other. It's really cool stuff.
So
you just got to talk to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. That's one of the things that, Aegis that we've kind of put together is primarily about, is it's just communicating. It's servers communicating with across different servers to come together and share that information. It's nothing new. It's nothing, innovative. It's people talking, which strangely enough, that's exactly what Discord was designed to do. We just decided, you know what? Let's get rid of some of the silos so that we can talk together and share that. One of the things that I've encountered that has been a very strange way to deal with the trolls, kink conversations get rid of trolls. And this is going to sound bizarre as hell. You know where I'm going with this, Lexi.
Auntie Katie.
So one of my TikTok friends and I will get into a conversation, and all of a sudden the trolls, the troll roll comes, and we see the numbers spiking. And we discovered that if we started talking about different subjects in the kink community, the trolls left. So I don't know if I'm giving anything away to TikTok over here, but it is kind of funny. Mama Pistachio is jumping in. I knew she was going to do it because we're brain clones. This is true. There's a reason for it. It goes hand in hand with what Lindsey was talking about with trolls and reasons. But it gets into the heart of why they show up. What it is it's short-circuiting their purpose for being there. When you begin to discuss something that is more globally uncomfortable for people, which let's admit it, in American culture, we think we're a sexualized culture, but we're not. We are still a very puritanical culture when it comes to talking about sex openly. And so when we find a subject that is more unpalatable to talk about in public discourse than the thing they want to be disgusting about, it short circuits their thinking. And so all of a sudden they are now wondering, what the hell am I doing here? And it throws it off. And we have actually seen numbers whenever we do this. The Annie Katie is on TikTok. She's moved over to Instagram because of problems she's experienced. But what we found was that we would be in her TikTok. She was doing the live. The troll roll would come in. The numbers would shoot up into the hundreds. We would just throw out there, hey, what do you think about a St. Andrew's cross and a flogger this weekend? And after 2 minutes, the numbers would go down to normal viewing numbers in the teens because it short circuits their conversation.
I'd also imagine to a certain extent, it's like, how do you even come at somebody for that? What do you got to do? Call them a pervert? Like, yeah, and?
Oh, sometimes people come at me with some awful comments. They'll say, "Oh, do you take it up there?" And of course, they'll leave that part blank. And I'm like, "Oh, honey, if you only knew how much I like that." Or I'll do something like that. When we start going 50 shades of what the fuck, they don't even know what to do. And you are absolutely right on that one. Auntie Katie and I, we did a live one night. And we had a discussion about that for about 5 or 6 minutes. And we cleared an entire room of almost 2,200 people and went down to about 200 pretty quick. And you touched on Americans being sexualized. Quick short story. I thought I knew all about sex and things like that until I met my wife. And let me tell you how blind I am. Because, yeah, I had no effing clue to what was really possible in life. So, yeah, I don't think we're as sexualized as people think we are. I didn't know shit, and I'm still learning every day.
Yeah.
So.
Now, allow me to say that if you're not comfortable doing that thing, it's okay. We get that. I am a coach and a consultant for sexuality, intimacy, and relationships, so I have no problems talking about all the stuffs. That's not a problem for me. But here's the thing. there are going to be subjects that are also just too far removed.
Mm-hmm.
Bathroom humor.
Ugh.
I watched a room, a common radio over on Clapper, go completely silent when we started talking about normal bodily functions. If you happen to be a femme presenting individual, if you start talking about menstrual cycles, you will lose all the male trolls. I promise you. Especially if you start talking about, detaxifying feminine hygiene projects. You're definitely going to lose all the trolls because those kind of subjects are going to make them so uncomfortable that it short circuits their ability to be in that space. So, just throwing that out there as one of mine. I want to jump over to the questions. We've got about 40 minutes left, so I want to get the questions that have come through the chat. What is your best experience on social media? Also, your worst experience on social media?
I'll start.
Okay.
Because they're both from YouTube. My best one was actually when I came out as gender fluid on the Council of Geeks channel. Because as I mentioned, I had the Vera Wild channel for ages before that, but I'd never made it explicit that I was the same person on both of them. And I presented very, very, very differently on both of them for a very, very long time. But when the Council of Geeks exceeded the number of subscribers, I started to get paranoid that someone was going to make the connection and was going to out me. Not that I was embarrassed, but the fact that someone else said it before I did would make it look as if I was. So I did a video celebrating hitting 10,000 subscribers. And the very last thing I talked about in that video was coming out as gender fluid. And I put that video out at about 12:30 a.m. in the morning. Immediately went to bed, woke up the next morning expecting to find that I'd lost 500 to 1,000 subscribers and that it was downvoted all to hell, neither of which happened. I lost no subscribers, and the comments were a flood of support, and about the harshest thing I got was somebody saying, I don't really understand this, but I like what you do here. I'm not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. It was the exact opposite of what I thought would happen. And I had been dreading the worst, and that was the best result I could have gotten at a time I really needed it. As far as the worst goes, I've alluded to it before. It's happened to me twice that a significantly larger YouTuber than me has decided to cherry pick parts of my videos in order to make fun of me. And the thing that sucks about that is not the videos themselves. It's happened to me twice. One from a YouTuber called Bearing, who at the time had about 10 times the number of subscribers that I had. And the other one was Blair White, who at the time she came at me had 75 times the subscribers that I had. And what sucks about that is not the videos they make themselves, it's that their subscribers descend on your channel. And for months, I had to keep clearing out people who very clearly were trolling me because they were following the lead of these much bigger YouTubers who decided that I was an easy target to make fun of because of the way I present and how I identify. Mm-hmm. So I've gone through that twice now, and it sucks.
Yeah.
I think my best experience would have been on TikTok. Originally I started it kind of just as a therapy to tell my story about the things that I've been through as life, when I came out in 2016 and I ended up homeless, and, I started telling that story all the way through right up until the day that I met my wife. We got married and I came back out again and decided to transition all over again. I gained so many followers so fast. I couldn't keep up. So that's probably the best thing that's happened to me. But the worst, I think, is when actually YouTube, interestingly enough, just recently I was gatekeeped by a fellow trans person, which was probably all the experiences that I completely had, losing my account, getting harassed and bullshit and all that crap throughout all of my platforms, to have one person who's trans do the gatekeeping bullshit. It's like it just brings you down. It's so disappointing to have that happen. Like, unbelievable. She was commenting on my YouTube on something that I had said on TikTok, like it mattered to TikTok. That's it. That's all I got as far as best worst.
Lindsey?
So, yeah, if I think about like the best and worst moments, I don't know that I can point to one singular type of event, but I'm a little different in sort of this pocket of creators in that, like, a lot of creators kind of document their coming out, or that's a big moment in sort of their creation of content. To I wasn't there in my life when I was in that phase. I couldn't even think about coming on social media and trying to talk to people about it. I just wasn't in a place mentally where I could do that. And so a lot of my posts have been, recaps and trying to educate people. This is where I'm at now. This is what this means, and just trying to almost backfill some of the details. Just for the benefit of somebody who might be going through what I was going through when I was unable to, really be present on any social media platform. And so the best experience for me is when somebody reaching out who, I try to answer back people who have questions. I try to answer back people who are legitimate. They're not trolls. They're real people that are struggling and they don't know where to go. And those are the best moments, is knowing that, hey, maybe it wasn't big, but I helped you in some way feel like you can do this. You can get through this time period of your life that might feel really dark right now. And then on the flip side, the worst is when, you do get those troll attacks that are overwhelming, and they sort of sometimes make it hard to filter the good ones out, to try to find the real people that need your help versus people who are just there to do, what they're doing. So I'd say that's my summary.
So for me, I do want to contribute to this conversation because I do have a best and a worst. The worst was social media was responsible for me being outed to the church where I worked as a pastor. I had limited my community on social media to only those people that I knew who could hear my voice and respect me to some degree when I announced my gender and sexuality. Someone in the church discovered that message and reported it to other members in the church. That message went out on a Tuesday, and by Sunday, I was out of a job. I was removed from being the pastor of a church in violation of church law. I was removed by a group of people who had no authority, but because someone had seen on social media who I am, they got together a small group of people in the church and made it impossible for me to show up on Sunday morning. They banned me from the building. They told me that at the end of business on Sunday, I could clean out my office.
Wow.
So that's the worst. I know. Hey, y'all, I appreciate all the love in the chat, but hang on, it gets better.
I hope so.
Because the best is sitting right here with me. First of all, it's Emily and Charlotte. Two sisters who have given me a purpose. You see, the thing is that when that group of people outed me because they saw something on social media, they destroyed my ability to have a purpose. I met this crazy, amazing, beautiful woman through watching the transgender show. And I asked her one day, what is your vision? What are you hoping to do? And I said, after she told me that, I said, look, you are changing lives. Every time you do an episode of the Transgender Show, you are changing lives. And I want to be a part of that. And she said, okay, I don't know you. We've never met before, but hell, let's do it. A couple months after that, we found about this crazy Canuckian who was wanting to do something similar in British Columbia. And I reached out to Charlotte after talking with Emily, and I said, Emily, I told Emily, I'm like, she's doing what we want to do. And Emily's like, ask her. And I reached out and I said, Charlotte, we see what you're doing. We would love to have you come on board here and be a part of what we're doing. And on that day, I had a family created. I have 2 sisters who stand by me, who watch out for me, who take me to places that I never expected I would go. This is the power of social media. It can destroy lives, but it can also create life. All of my community, all of my family, except for my wife, my 2 kids, my 3 dogs, and a couple of cousins, all the rest of my family, I've met through social media. That's the power of it. So the next question, what would you say is the most essential?
Really? That was a really gorgeous story. That was really good. That was beautiful.
Charlotte?
Seriously.
I
couldn't
know I'm
even
not
top
saying
that.
that. I just want to jump in for a quick second because one of my best stories, and no, I'm not going to retell the one that Jeannie said, but from a different angle. My biggest story originates from social media as well, and that's my egg crack. I was in the middle of the COVID pandemic. We had just gone into lockdown in Canada. I turned 39 years old, and I was actually off work in the middle of a mental health break, and my entire life was going down the tubes. And I just happened to be on social media at the right time, at the right place. My metrics had just shifted because I had openly admitted that I was pansexual, and I stumbled across a transgender woman's page, not even realizing that she was trans. And it was a Transition Tuesday post, the ones that we like to do with the side by sides, and just gave me enough clarity at the right time for my egg to just obliterate me to see what was wrong in my life was the fact that I was trans and I was just living the wrong life. That wouldn't have happened without social media, at least in my opinion. It might have taken a lot longer, but I was living under a deep repression. So I have a lot of joy for the community that's out there in social media, which is one of the reasons why I find this summit transfers everything you guys do as content creators to be so important and something that we do need to protect. So thank you for letting me share, Jeannie.
You bet. Em, do you want to jump in there?
Sure.
Yeah,
I will jump in. Hopefully y'all you can all can hear me now. I've had dogs barking in the background, so I'm muted. It was interesting for me that I think worst and best moments together outside of the stuff that's happened here with the transverse. I'm trying not to be too like self-referential for that. But I was a guest on the Transvengers one night, and I was so honored to be there. That was how I got into Twitch. Was I found the Transvengers and I loved them, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the platform I've been looking for. I was a guest one night, and somebody in the chat, while Victoria was asking a very serious question, said that I, whatever, the bottom right, wherever I was on the screen, has the face of a mole rat. And I laughed, and it was brutal because, like I said, Victoria was asking a very serious question, and I was doing the wrong thing. I was reading chat. That's why one of my rules is guests can't read chat. but it was just so laughable to me. It was just so over the top. It was ridiculous. And I laughed at it out loud. It stuck with me for 4 days, and I had bad dysphoria for 4 days after that. And it was like, but I laughed at this. I thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious because it was so ridiculous. And yet, for 4 days afterwards, I felt like shit about myself. And I don't know. So it was a great and terrible moment at the same time. That I don't even know how it was a terrible moment, because like I laughed at it, and yet somehow something was residual in there that hit at. It's those things that hit at a core belief in yourself, right? You don't believe you're good enough. You don't believe you're pretty enough. You don't believe you're feminine or masculine enough. Whatever you feel you are on the inside, when the outside doesn't match that from your perspective, that's when the trolls can easily get to you sometimes. And I was disappointed. I was really disappointed that it affected me, considering how I was like in the moment. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, this is obviously just someone trying to get at me, and it's dumb, it's not true, whatever. And yet, that voice in the back of my head took that in and used that against me for the next 3-4 days.
And I remember that night.
I started my whole channel because of you guys. I ended up here. I didn't even know this channel existed until I met Cate. Cate told me about the interview she was supposed to do, and so that's when I tuned into you guys. I met Jeannie in the chat and Emily through chat as well, because I was on the other back end. But then, and I started my whole Twitch channel because of you guys. I said, they're doing one little content, but let me do something slightly different that's maybe a little more controversial. And then a couple of weeks later, Jeannie and you both get a hold of me and say, I think we want you guys on the network at least one day a week. And so that I ended up here because of you guys. It was a great idea for me to do, because I had pretty much had it with TikTok. I went on TikTok live today under 43 for the first time in probably a month. So,
Meowster, you want to jump in there?
Yeah. Because of my neurotype, I have a really hard time with best worst type questions. Like, it's been a struggle. But I guess I wanted to take a moment to be aggressively wholesome, which is sort of the thing I do professionally on the internet. And just say the friends and community that I've made on Twitch has made the pandemic tolerable for me. As a disabled person, when pandemic happened and lockdown happened, my world didn't get smaller, it got bigger.
Mhm.
Because all of a sudden, all the people that I had never seen online or whatever were suddenly online. And I was like, wow, where have all of you been? Like, I've been like waiting for you to figure out the thing. It's like grandma with the Zoom, can't figure it out sort of situation. Like, finally, all the grandmas had to figure out Zoom because that's the only way they were going to see their grandkids for the next 2 years or whatever. So, I actually have a little private channel in my Discord server where I keep track of like personal achievements. Because I don't know, I almost want to call it like a type of dysphoria, and I don't have the words very well. That's another thing with my brain, is like I can be so smart sometimes, but the autism makes the words not fancy and sparkly. But I have this sort of warp in my brain where I forget all the good things that have happened. And so, we're asking for best and worst, and I'm like, I think I also sometimes will forget the worst things because it's easier to forget them than to hold on to them. Like I don't want to hold on to the burning ember, which is why at first when I heard the question, I was like, oh, this is a great chance for bio break. I don't have an answer. But I don't know. I think it's important to represent neurotypes and be like, yeah, people with this brain exist too. And so I actually I invited I would say like an A-lister trans person to be on my show. I that day had my top surgery, and I was very out of it and very brave because I was very out of it. And so I DM'd someone on Twitter that if I was in my not on pain meds mind, probably wouldn't have had the courage to. And her response was, the awesome in me sees the awesome in you, and This sort of season of life, I'm not available, but please do ask me again in the new year. And so then I followed up and was like, what's the best way to get a hold of you? And then this A-lister trans person sent me their phone number. And I just like started crying because I was like, like, I can't believe that's in my phone. What is happening? So I'm not telling you who it is because I told you this other piece of information, but it was just like, there's this superpower that the internet gives us where we're all just people and we don't have to have these tiers of who's the awesomest, who's whatever. Like, we just get to be people together and we get to make this stuff happen together. And so, like, it doesn't matter if you have 100 or 100 million followers. Like, we can actually just all be loving and collaborative and like disassemble those hierarchies because the patriarchy is putting us down enough. We don't need to recreate it in our trans spaces.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool thing that happened. I don't know what the worst thing was. There's probably been things, there's comments that I don't like, but I just couldn't believe, one, that she even wrote back, and two, that they gave me their number, and I was just like, yeah, believe it. Ridiculous.
That has been, I mean, that's been one of the things that has been frustrating and also amazing is who is open and who is not open to communicate within our community. For me, I understand that there's always a barrier. There's always a noise barrier that when somebody reaches from, small beans up to medium beans up to influencer, there's always a barrier that you have to overcome. And the barrier between small beans and medium beans isn't nearly as hard as the one between medium beans and influencer. And if you're a small beans trying to reach the influencer, that barrier is big and tall and thick. So yeah, I get that. And I'm so happy for you, Meowster, that you were able to do something like that.
Thanks.
Okay, so what would you say is the most essential thing that social media platforms should do for LGBTQ plus creators?
I mean, honestly, the main thing, just freaking listen to us. Because I don't know enough about the back end of tech and about algorithms or modding or bots to know what kind of tech solutions. I can't. But what I can tell you, and I even mentioned some of this earlier, is that nearly every major problem that we've talked about, trans and non-binary and queer creators have either been saying right from the get-go, this is a problem, or if a feature was going to be upcoming and was announced ahead of time, we have always said, there is a potential problem for us with this. I hope you're dealing with. So just, listen to us when we freaking tell you there's a problem.
Right.
That would be great.
I think education, like they need to educate and put protections in place for the LGBT community because there's just nothing. It's like we referenced earlier with TikTok just having no control over their app whatsoever, and the trolls pretty much control it. But I think that some sort of protection in place for the LGBT community would be good, even if they limit what people are seeing so that we're sectioned off maybe. And like, I don't even know, but something to protect us for damn sure. Because at this point, it's all about ignorance.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I think education, and I think it's education not just publicly on the platforms, but education in their own organizations. I participate in a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion work, in my day job. And, there's a lot of conversations about you can't even start this conversation unless you have different people represented at the table, right? Because nobody can understand someone else's experience. And it really just goes back to just that level of respect. Like, you can't speak for somebody else, so give them the opportunity through an organization you hire or through, actually individuals you bring on board to speak to what they feel, is going on the platform, so you can learn and educate yourself and develop a better user experience.
And I think for me, the thing that I've been dealing with all day with regard to Netflix and the walkout that happened yesterday and my posting on social media about me giving up Netflix and not participating anymore. Netflix proved their inability to do both of those things, to listen and be educated, because Netflix had the most lauded special format program dealing with transgender representation in media ever done, respected across critically, actors, trans community. People were proclaiming how good a job this one particular program did in talking about transgender representation in media.
Yep.
Netflix owned it exclusively. You can't access it anywhere else that I'm aware of. And 18 months later, they take a crap on that program. Because everything that's happened with Netflix, screw Dave Chappelle, get rid of him, let's not talk about him anymore, he's small beans. This is about Netflix. Netflix proved that they did not listen, they did not learn. And that's one of the big problems that I feel like we have to be able to believe that companies are going to internalize it. And I think that's what you were saying, Lindsey, is it has to be internalized. It has to go from just being, a representative or a token member of the community within the boardroom, but instead it has to be internalizing it from top down to bottom and bottom back up to top. So it's kind of, Meowster, go ahead.
I think we should take a page out of the Black Lives Matter book. In a big city nearby, the BIPOC folks have tried forever to get hospitals to figure out their life and not be so racist against BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color. And it's never happened. So that type of change doesn't work. That's why we're saying that we need to abolish the police, for example, because there is no amount of revisions to a racist system that is going to make it less racist. The whole system has to be gone. And so I actually think what the Transverse is doing and what other trans and non-binary content creators are doing is the solution, which is we need to create our own media platforms, because we're not going to revise the cishet platforms that are CEO'd by cishet white guys. We actually need to be making our own stuff. Which frankly is why I keep slogging away at content creation, even though I'm paying more than I'm making right now with content creation by a lot. It's a time. But we need to create our own thing. And so I guess back to my story, the big city nearby, I just got an email the last month or two. They have secured enough grassroots funding to buy an entire block of the city, which with the way white people are, they push BIPOC into the mediocre parts of town and they get all the prime real estate. And so they actually were able to buy an entire city block in a traditionally Black neighborhood, and they're putting in a homeless shelter and a couple of other things. And they're in the process of working on the first, at least in this area, at least in a long time, Black-owned hospital that is run by BIPOC people, headed and led by those people. And so I think we need diversity at the top, not just diversity hires who are designing the systems. That is how we win, is we make our own stuff.
Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear. Oh God, that's
you plucked Emily's heartstrings by talking about buying up a city block.
I'm waiting for her to cry.
That was one of the third things I told you, Jeannie, when you asked me like what I wanted to do with the transverse. When you're like talking about like big goals or whatever, I'm like, I want to be able to buy a city block and turn it into trans-owned housing and provide housing for. I mean, housing, employment are huge issues for the community, and God, that's my dream. I'm so glad to hear that that's happening for the people of color communities. That's incredible.
Emily, can I tell you one of my pie in the sky dreams?
Absolutely.
So I would love to. Step one is starting a fund for people's gender affirming surgeries that they can apply for, and it doesn't matter like if you have insurance and you need help with copay, or you are going to be off work for a month because you need to recover from your surgery, whatever it is, like starting a grassroots fund that's paid for by fellow trans people and allies, material support for those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then that snowballs into perhaps a lobbying group that pushes not only for Medicare for all, but that all trans health is covered within the United States. And then that snowballs into the world and making sure trans healthcare is covered worldwide. Because I am so tired of trans youth and trans adults completing suicide because they have no hope, because it's too expensive, because we're losing our lives to capitalism, and I'm so over it. So I hear you on the housing piece 100%, and that's my big dream.
Can I jump on a soapbox before Jeannie does?
Wait, no, stop, because I know where you're going, Emily, and we need to deal with the subject at hand before we get too far with that. Meowster, we're setting a date. We're having lunch. We do golf around Fortnite, so you're more than welcome to come do a business lunch with us at Fortnite. But Lexi, jump in there.
Well, I wanted to pipe in because I know originally when the Auntie Cate was getting interviewed by Emily, I would really like to help They with that. Seriously, because that is something that I was thinking about doing myself, is starting a foundation to fund for trans folks or the LGBT who can't afford housing, hormones, surgery, whatever it may be. So I would love to try to maybe collaborate with that.
Okay. We want to talk to all of you all about those things because we have talked about those things, and so we want to connect with you. But there's a question that we only have a few minutes left, and I really want to touch on this one because it's an amazing question to end on. As a community, how do you feel we can help each other to protect ourselves on social media?
I'm actually going to tie in the point that I would have made if we stayed on the old question, and I'm going to make it an answer to this question. Because the thing is, as much as it is important that we make our own spaces and that those spaces exist and be safe, honestly, if you have the spoons and the stomach for it, just be visible. Because as much as we do need our own spaces that we build ourselves, we need to also be seen. Because if all of us abandon the mainstream platforms, then as far as the mainstream is concerned, we don't exist. We exist off in some little pocket dimension where all the queers go. And that's not... I came back to TikTok after being banned and losing the appeal, and I'm still bitter. I was really actively mad about that, but I still came back because I have heard from enough people who told me that just seeing me and feeling like they had some kind of representation and seeing someone who made them feel like they were less weird, that is too important to me. And I refuse to be bullied off of a platform, be it by trolls, be it by hate raids, be it by the platform itself. I will not make your life more convenient by disappearing.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, I'd love to just echo that. I think visibility is our biggest ally in everything we do, and especially on social media. I think the trans movement and the fight for equality in a lot of ways is at this critical moment that you can sort of look back in history and say, that's where marriage equality was at this point in time, and you could see there was just a point in that battle where it hit critical mass and it exploded into people overwhelmingly changing positions and saying, yeah, this doesn't make sense. Like, why would we be against this? And we're really at a tipping point, and it's visibility that disarms people because the more visible that they see, it helps people relate. If they can't see you, then they make up their own assumptions. And, seeing people and realizing, like, could be my coworker, that could be my neighbor, that could be somebody I've interacted with, and I had no idea that they were struggling in this way or that these were the kinds of issues they faced. It disarms them and makes them possibly reconsider where they stand on certain issues. So, I love that point about visibility.
I'd like to punch in on that. We before we went on air, we had talked about how I had gone to watch our daughter cheerlead tonight at a football game, and she wanted us there. And my wife had made a good point that I had to use the restroom, but unfortunately, I held it and held it and held it and held it and held it because I refused to use it at an elementary school where I'm just going to get bombarded by thousands of parents. But my wife made a really good point to me that I should have done it, and I should have done it because there are trans kids in school today who need to see somebody like us out in public saying, okay, well, she's doing it, we're going to be okay because we have adults that are in the same situation that we are. And unfortunately, that was one of those things. Other than being at the game representing myself, I did not use the ladies' room like I should have. And by the time I got home, I was paying for it. But the point is that we do need to stick together as a community. Emily, I was paying for it big time. It hurt. But I should have done it that way. The people, even the trans children that were in the audience or on the stadium or whatever would have seen that, well, there's other people fighting for the same thing we are, and I'm going to be okay. And unfortunately, I kind of let them down today. So we need to stick together.
Meowster?
Oh, I thought I had talked so much the last time I wasn't going to get to talk again.
No, you get all the time you want. It's unlimited times.
I love what people are saying about visibility. I'm having a side chat with Superfly Trans Guy about the importance of, at least for me, I've made my channel 13 plus instead of 18 plus because 13 is the minimum age requirement for Twitch because I want the trans youth to be able to find me. I don't want to leave the kids behind, and so many trans content creators that I've seen are only 18 plus and they're horny on main and all the Twitter is very horny, and I am 0% kink shaming anyone. Like, yes, be your kinky selves, I'm so here for it. And like for me, the space that I occupy is like aggressively wholesome. And like you can be all the genders. Your genders are super valid. I'm just gonna yell about how valid your genders are all day. Like that's what I do on the internet. That's my job. And the kids need it so much. Like I just like with pandemic, I was thinking about like someone who's gender nonconforming of some flavor or another, like going to college and then immediately having to go back home because of COVID, and like just starting to like hatch out of their little metamorphosis chrysalis and then having to tuck their little wings back in because of everything is terrible at home. And it's like I want to make safe spaces online for these young people to come be and vibe and find themselves. And in our Discord we have a selfies channel, which a lot of people have that, but if you read the instructions on the channel, it says please tell us the gender or genders of compliments you'd like to receive. So then we're not reading you and projecting our opinions on what your gender is on you. You can, like, for me, I'll post and I'll say masculine and non-binary compliments appreciated. So then people know they can tell me I'm handsome or they can tell me I'm good looking. But if you say I'm pretty, it's just not going to land as well. Like, I'm not going to get mad at you, but it just doesn't sink in as deeply. And so especially I would say in the non-binary community where it's even less obvious what sort of compliments might be nice to receive. It's nice to have those sorts of spaces together and to sort of be radically inclusive in that way. As a final note for intersectionality, we also in the Discord server work on deconstructing ableist language. So saying content warning for ableist language, saying words like crazy or stupid. We're actually in an active process together of trying to not say those words, and the mods will gently notify you if you said them and give people that opportunity to unlearn, because we can't leave our disabled trans people behind. we just can't, you know? So anyway, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
can keep going. I have a whole talk show about it.
No, and that's a perfect thing to end on for yours, Meowster, is what Lexi keeps saying. We have to bring all of us along, and we have to expand the group, not shrink it. We have to include more people that don't have all of the rights that the freaking white cis males do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and learning about our trans elders too.
Yes.
This is a channel point redemption on my stream as I read out of this book, To Survive on the Shore. I learned that from Lime Jello. Learn about the elders, listen to the kids, like have a multi-generational team, right? Like have the different ages represented, have the 20 something that's a hot mess and shows up late and has had too many coffees, like have the 40 something like smoking the cigarettes with the pile of kids, like have the elders who are in their 70s, 80s, 90s and they're tired and they don't know what a Twitch is, but like you call them on the phone because you respect your elders and you want them to be included in the work. Like, bring everyone along.
Absolutely.
Intergenerational, multiracial, think about abilities and include all the different abilities. We're better together.
Yes, we are.
Come one, come all.
So we're going to go ahead and close up because we're at that time. But before we take off, I want to give you all a chance to plug where you are and what you are doing so that people can follow you, find you, and freak out about you. So, Vera, what you doing?
Okay, I've got a long list. I'll try and keep it short.
Okay.
If you look for Council of Geeks, you will find all of my geek-related stuff. On YouTube, I do also talk about queer representation there, but I also talk about Doctor Who and Star Wars and the Marvel movies and all sorts of stuff like that. There's also Break Room of Geeks, which is the sister channel, which is unscripted, where I just basically review whatever the heck I've been up to lately. I'm on Twitch as Council of Geeks. I stream on Wednesdays and Fridays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm currently playing Hades, which is an awesome game and also more than a little horny, so I'm having fun with that one. Under Vera Wild, you can also find me on YouTube and Twitter and on TikTok. I have books that are available through Amazon. There is Skirting Gender, which was published under Vera Wild, and there is also a fantasy novel called Dreams of Fire, published under Nathaniel Wayne.
Excellent. Meowster, I did share your link tree, but if there's anything you would like to share with you.
Yeah, sure. So if folks check out that link tree, you can see my channel trailer. I'm primarily a Twitch streamer, so I'm live 11 to 2, Tuesday through Thursday, and then on Mondays from 2:30 to 3:30 or 4 Pacific. All of these are Pacific. And on Mondays we have the Genderful Talk Show, and I would actually love to invite each of you to be on the talk show at some point if you would like, and I can send you DMs with invites later. But we talk about gender and special interests, so it's not always Trans 101, like where did you start? Some of that is in there, but we've had people talk about their headmates and like sort of cool neurodiverse things. We've had a couple of talks on ADHD. We've had people talk about I'm trying to get someone to talk about alter humanity, but scheduling is really hard because when you have pause, it's hard to do the typing and the scheduling. So we'll see if we can figure that out. But I'm on Twitch and Discord are my two main spaces. I'm also on YouTube and I have a podcast. My son edits all of those and I'm very grateful to him. I have an incredible merch team that puts all of the gay things on the internet for us. I just have ideas and write them down and someone else designs them and a third person puts them on the internet and it's really amazing and I'm so grateful. Yeah, and actually if you are a streamer, if you are trying to make your channel more accessible, if you're trying to figure out how to manage multiple video feeds and do a big panel like this, I have guides for all of those things on my Ko-Fi. I spent time writing down my processes because I want all streamers to be able to get their message out there. If the sliding scale is not accessible to you financially, send me a DM and let's work it out because I want people to be able to have their voices heard. And it helps, especially with ADHD people, if your stuff looks good enough to look at for a long time. So I would love to help with all of those things. And I'm so grateful to have been on the show. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Lexi.
Well, I run a show on Twitch called Live with Lady Lexi, and starting on Sunday the 24th, I will actually be here on the Transverse Network running Unchained, 5 with Lady Lexi. Thanks to all 3 of you guys. Thank you. And so please be here on my start. Also, you can find me on pretty much any platform on the Trans Girl 43, whether it's TikTok, Instagram. I have a Facebook group. It's Trans Girl 43 as well. The Clapper, and I usually run my show actually 5 days a week here on Twitch from 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I talk about all kinds of stuff. I talk about sex. I talk about transgender discrimination. I talk about non-binary discrimination. Doesn't matter. I talk about it. Latest news things, and that wonderful, wonderful man, Dave Chappelle, has been the topic lately. And yeah, just come see me. And again, thank you. It's been wonderful to meet all of you that I have not met already. As soon as I figure out my technical information, I'd love to have you guys all on my show at one point. That would be wonderful.
We'll get to there.
Lindsey.
So I'm pretty easy. Unlabeled Truth. You can find me on Instagram. That's primarily what I use. One other plug in my day job, I am a college marketing director for a very large college, and I am also the marketing officer for the equality group that represents all the students that are part of that organization. And so one thing I always do and I look for on Instagram, and so connect with me if you have resources, educational. We try to make sure that we're putting out the appropriate resources and education for our students, and it goes to about 100,000 students, so it's a pretty good size clip. So elevating voices is kind of what I'm all about, and so connect with me if you have things that you want to talk about or you just want to say hi. Feel free to reach out to me on there.
Okay. Charlotte.
Do I get to plug us too, or do I have to leave that for you?
You get to plug us, sweetie.
Woo! Okay, well, on the personal side, it's Charlotte Danielle. I'm Webs of Charlotte pretty much everywhere except for Facebook, because I went and started my page before I actually returned to Facebook as Webs of Charlotte. So Facebook is Charlotte Calliope Danielle. As I mentioned at the start, I'm the executive director of community for the Transverse. And my job is to of course bring everybody together under hopefully one roof. We're trying to be the hub for every group to connect to, so that we can make sure that everybody has the visibility and the connection that they need, in essence, to realize that they are not alone out there. Anybody watching, you're not alone. Okay, we're all here for you, and the Transverse was developed for you and by you. So join up with us, come see us, come visit us. The Discord has been going through the stream. I've seen it there. It's fantastic. We have many folks connected to us. I also want to make a quick plug for the Aegis platform. We just developed that and launched it. I want to say, I think, Jeannie, you were right, about 2 weeks ago now. We are protecting approximately 17,000 LGBTQIA+ identified folks throughout Discord and Twitch at this point. We do basically, it's a relay service. So folks who ban individuals on a Discord server or on their Twitch channel can report into Aegis, which then will auto broadcast out to anyone who's subscribed with us, so that they can preemptively stop these trolls from even hitting their front door. So if you're interested in that service, charlotte.danielle@thetransverse.net. Drop me an email. If you're on our Discord, feel free to ping me at Webs of Charlotte. I also want to do a quick shout out before I turn it back over to Jeannie, to the moderation team that is here tonight and has been working really hard since yesterday and to come together and make sure that everything was coordinated and planned to pull this off. I haven't seen many pings at all, which means that we've been fairly successful this evening. So thank you to everyone. I do appreciate your time and efforts. Thank you.
Emily.
The one thing I really wanted to plug is, it's so great to have you all here. There's nothing to plug about me other than just y'all being here, because this is wonderful. But the one thing that I did want to jump off of, something that Meowster said, is we do in the Transverse have a partner that is a pharmacist. So if you or anyone you know is struggling to pay for your HRT, we have a connection to get you meds at cost. there's some things involved with that, so we can't advertise it. But if it's something that you or someone you know is struggling with to get their meds, and it's so important to be able to stay on your meds. Personal story, I was off mine for about a month because of some healthcare issues. And it's terrible. It's freaking terrible. And no one should be off them or have to pay the hundreds of dollars. My girlfriend went to the pharmacy and it was going to be $500 for her meds without insurance at one point. So if you know anybody who's struggling or needs the help, we have that connection. So please connect with any of us in the transverse. Myself, Charlotte, or Jeannie would be probably the best, and we can get you directly contacted with the person for that.
And I just want to let everyone know that the Transverse is pretty much showing something every week, every day of the week. Thursday's kind of our night off, as a matter of fact. But Friday we have Valkyries. Saturday we have one of our new shows, All on the Table, where we are going to be playing Thirsty Sword Lesbians. Yes, that is a real game, and it'll be fun. Sunday, Lexi is going to be premiering on the Transverse. Monday is Must Watch Monday for us. We have Queer and Teen Kitchen.
Final episode.
And we have Transistence, and we have Behind Open Doors. So we have a 3-hour block where you can kind of come in and watch a lot of stuff. And then Tuesday is our flagship show, the Transgender Show. And Lexi is our guest this week. Woohoo! And finally, on Wednesday nights, we have Builder's Block, where we have somebody come in, show off their wonderful talents. Last night was Rosa Ilva in the chat, where she was building her Gundam mechs. Yeah. But we have a rotating group there. That's what the Transverse is doing. We're coming up with new shows all the time. So, yeah, if you're interested in entertainment or learning about us, please check us out in the Discord. We are open for all transgender, non-binary, non-conforming, and intersex people and allies. We do welcome allies into our space. We do ask that all allies remember that this is a trans, non-binary, non-conforming, and intersex space where their voices are raised. So allies are welcome to be in that space, but it is our community to have our voices raised up with one another. So please check us out, be a part of what we're doing. Thank you to all of you who have been panelists tonight. Thank you for your patience, your kindness, your sharing, and your wonderful stories. Thank you all in the chat for being so active and cooperative. And we are going to do another one of these on November 17th. It will be different panelists, but we want to welcome you back for that event to share in what we're going to be doing as we continue to move towards some kind of action plans to make better progress in getting all voices heard. Thank you all so much. And Emily, take us out of here. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, and it looks like Lexi is going to go live. Are you going to be ready to go live anytime super soon that we could raid over?
Within the next 5 minutes. I'm just going to use the little girls' room, and then I will be back here to go live, yes.
Okay, I'm going to keep us live for a second, and then when you're up live, then I'll raid over to you. So thank you all.
I'll be right back.
Wonderful show. Great job, everybody. Bye.